the signal that started it. All it began with silence. For years, humanity had stayed quiet, hidden in the deep corners of the galaxy. After centuries of wars and losses, the Terran Union chose peace over pride. They built colonies far from the old battlefields, far from the empires that once hunted them. But silence never lasts forever. On a cold morning aboard the Terran listening station Vigil 9, an operator named Lyra caught something unusual. A faint signal flickered through the noise of the stars, weak and broken. She adjusted the frequency again and again, and finally heard a human voice. "They are burning everything, please help." And then nothing. Her heart froze. No one had used that channel in years. It came from Eden 4, a distant human colony that was supposed to be peaceful and safe. She ran to her superior's desk, her hands shaking. "Sir, it's a distress signal, human origin, priority red," she said. The officer stared at the screen, his eyes wide. "Eden 4 is gone," he whispered. "Patch me to command." Within hours, the signal reached the Terran High Council on Mars. The leaders watched the playback in silence. The message repeated, then dissolved into static. The alien flag seen for a brief second, a burning symbol of the Vorash Dominion, a race known for conquest who once claimed no one could challenge them. The room filled with a deep, cold anger. They all knew what it meant. The Vorash had found humanity again, and they had destroyed one of their colonies without mercy. In the shadows of Mars' orbit, a massive warship floated, TSS Leviathan, the pride of the Terran fleet. It was not built for exploration. It was built for vengeance. Every metal plate carried the memory of fallen worlds. Every cannon was forged from wrecks of old wars. And at its command stood Admiral Rhea Solon. Her eyes were like burning steel as she read the report. She had fought in the old wars, seen her home turned to ashes, and now history was trying to repeat itself. "Prepare the Leviathan," she said softly. Her voice was calm, but her crew could feel the fury beneath it. "All systems ready, Admiral," replied Commander Hayes. "The fleet awaits your signal." Rhea stared through the viewport, watching the pale light of Mars. She remembered the vow humanity made after the last galactic war. Never again would they kneel. The galaxy had forgotten that promise. Now it was time to remind them. Across the ship, alarms echoed. Crews ran to stations, massive cannons hummed. Energy cores flared to life. The ship's AI voice filled the corridors. "Jump drive charging, 30 seconds to transit. Outside." The stars began to twist and bend as space itself shivered. The Leviathan was awakening, and somewhere deep in the black, an entire alien empire would soon tremble, Admiral, the comms officer said. "All hands are ready." Rhea looked around the bridge. Every officer standing at attention, silent. She raised her hand slowly. "Then we move," she said. "No mercy, no hesitation. Humanity strikes back." The jump engines roared, and in a flash of blue light, the Leviathan vanished. Only a ripple of distortion was left behind, spreading across the void light years away. In the Vorash Dominion's capital, a council of alien warlords celebrated their victory. They laughed as they displayed footage of Eden 4 burning. They called humans weak, soft, unworthy of the stars. But somewhere in the darkness, their sensors began to flicker. A distortion appeared near their outer defenses. One of their officers frowned. "Unknown mass detected," he said nervously. "It's massive, sir. Too massive for any known vessel." A shadow emerged from hyperspace, glowing with the fury of 1,000 suns. The Terran warship Leviathan, humanity's answer to extinction, had arrived. On its bridge. Admiral Rhea stood tall, her gaze fixed on the enemy systems ahead. She whispered a line that would soon echo across the galaxy. "You wanted to find us," she said. "Now face what you found." The cannons charged. The engines roared, and humanity began its march of fire. The galaxy would soon remember why humans were feared, and why mercy had long been erased from their war songs. The arrival of the Leviathan. The stars trembled as the Terran warship Leviathan emerged from hyperspace. Space itself bent around its massive frame, its hull dark as night and marked with the scars of old wars. It was not just a ship, it was a floating fortress, a weapon older than peace itself. Every sensor on every alien vessel screamed warnings the moment it appeared. But by then it was too late. Admiral Rhea Solon stood on the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back. Before her, the holographic map showed dozens of Vorash ships circling their nearest planet. They were confident, loud, arrogant. But confidence meant nothing in front of the Leviathan. "Target their command cruiser," Rhea said quietly. Her voice was calm, but the crew felt a shiver run through the air. Fire when ready. Inside the ship's weapon bay, ancient reactors hummed awake. Beams of light pulsed along the hull, gathering into the forward cannons. Then with a deep and dreadful roar, the Leviathan fired. A single crimson beam crossed the void, cutting through the Vorash cruiser like paper. In less than a second, the ship split apart, its fragments burning as they fell toward their own planet. Silence filled the comms. For a brief moment, no one moved. Then the Vorash fleet opened fire. Dozens of plasma torpedoes streaked toward the Leviathan. They hit the armor, exploded in bright blue flashes, but the Terran ship did not move, did not flinch. Its shields absorbed everything. Leaving not even a scratch, the aliens panicked, their formation breaking apart as they tried to regroup. "Admiral," said Commander Hayes. "They're scattering." Rhea nodded slowly, her eyes cold. "Then make sure they never regroup again." The Leviathan's secondary batteries came alive. Turrets rotated, missile bays opened, and the darkness of space filled with light. Each shot found its mark with mathematical precision. Alien ships burst apart one by one. Some tried to run, others begged for mercy. But the Terran fleet gave none. The transmission channels filled with chaos. Alien voices crying out. Unknown human vessel unstoppable, falling back, falling. And then, static. Rhea watched without blinking. She had warned the Council years ago that peace was an illusion. Now her words were becoming truth before her eyes. "Send this message to all Vorash frequencies," she said. The comms officer nodded and waited. Rhea leaned forward and spoke. "This is Admiral Rhea Solon of the Terran Union. You attacked our colony, you destroyed our people. You left us no choice," her tone hardened. "We will not stop until your war machines are silent, until every enslaved world is free, until your empire knows what it means to fear the dark again." The message played across every enemy ship. Every Vorash commander felt a cold pulse of dread. They had fought countless species before, but none spoke like that. None sounded so calm while bringing death. Meanwhile, inside the Leviathan's lower decks, the crew worked with silent focus. Young officers who had never seen battle before moved with the precision of veterans. They had grown up hearing stories of human defeat, of lost colonies and fallen worlds. Now they were writing a new chapter. One written not with fear, but with fire. Outside, the planet beneath them burned. The Vorash defensive cities glowed red as plasma storms ripped through their atmosphere. Entire continents turned to ash. The Leviathan did not linger. It moved on like a storm. "Cold, efficient, unstoppable, Admiral," Hayes said quietly. "Their fleet is gone." Rhea turned to him, her expression unreadable. "Then we move to the next system," she replied, "until every colony lost to them is avenged." The ship turned, its engines lighting up once more. Behind it, the dying world of the Vorash Dominion faded into silence. Only smoke and shattered metal remained. A warning to any who would test humanity again. As the Leviathan jumped to its next destination, a single phrase echoed in every Terran ship. 3 words spoken like a prayer and a promise: no mercy given. The galaxy had once thought humans were fragile. Now it would learn that humanity's strength was not in peace. It was in survival. And when survival turned to vengeance, nothing could stand in its way. The Empire trembles. Word of the destruction spread faster than light. Across the Vorash Dominion, every communication hub buzzed with disbelief. Entire fleets gone, planets silenced, their proud war banners reduced to ashes. The report sounded impossible. One ship, one human warship, had done it all. In the great council hall of the Vorash homeworld, panic replaced pride. The massive chamber, once filled with arrogance, now echoed with fear. Holograms flickered above the table, showing the wreckage of their fleets. A dozen commanders shouted over one another. "It cannot be human technology," one said. "It must be a weapon of the old ones," another cried. But deep down, every one of them knew the truth. The humans had returned, and they were not the same species they once mocked. High Chancellor Korath slammed his claws against the table. "Silence," he roared. "You told me they were weak, that they hid behind colonies and treaties." The room fell silent. Korath's voice dropped lower, almost trembling. "Now tell me, if that was weakness, what is this?" No one answered. No one dared. Far away on the bridge of the Leviathan, Admiral Rhea Solon stared at the next target blinking on her map. Each red dot represented a Vorash system that once enslaved human miners. Every jump meant justice. She had not smiled once since the first strike. Her mission was not revenge for glory. It was survival for truth. "Commander Hayes," she said, "status of the next system. 3 colonies. Minimal defense, mostly civilians," he replied. Rhea paused. Her voice was soft, almost human again. "Then we do not fire first," she said. "Transmit evacuation warning. Give them 1 hour." The crew exchanged glances. It was mercy, but it was also strategy. Every broadcast of the Leviathan's warning spread fear deeper into Varash space. To the alien people, humanity had become myth, vengeful ghosts riding metal gods. Children whispered stories of the Ashmaker, the human ship that burned worlds. Some prayed to it for deliverance. Others begged their leaders to surrender. In the Varash capital, the Chancellor called his war council again. "We must speak to them," he said, voice shaking. "Send diplomats. Offer peace," but his generals refused. "They are not coming for peace," one hissed. "They are coming to finish us." The Chancellor turned toward the window, looking at the night sky where human ships moved like faint scars of light. "I fear," he said quietly. "You are right." Meanwhile, deep within the Leviathan, the crew gathered in the mess hall after the battle. The air smelled of metal and ozone. Young technicians sat in silence, their hands trembling. They had seen cities crumble under their weapons. Some felt pride, others guilt. One young officer, Mira Tan, whispered to her friend, "Do you think we've gone too far?" Her friend looked at her and shook his head slowly. "They went too far first," he said. "They started this. We're just ending it." Rhea heard their voices over the intercom. She said nothing, but deep inside a storm raged within her heart. She remembered the faces of her people on Eden 4. The burned skies, the destroyed cities. There was no going back, only forward, until the last enemy world lay silent. When the hour passed, Rhea gave the order. "Fire on the remaining military outposts." The Leviathan unleashed its fury again. Mountains shattered, orbital rings fell, and alien commanders screamed through static. Then all was quiet, another system erased. Another message to the stars. Do not awaken humanity's wrath in the outer colonies. Resistance movements began to rise. Alien slaves cheered as Vorash control collapsed. They painted the symbol of a red star on their walls, the mark of the Terrans. Hope spread in the ruins of fear. For some, the Leviathan was not death, but liberation back on the Terran homeworld. The media broadcasted the impossible victories. Crowds filled the streets, waving the flag of old Earth. For the first time in centuries, humanity was united again, not in peace but in purpose. Rhea's name became legend. Children whispered it as bedtime stories. Soldiers engraved it into their armor. But she herself remained quiet, her eyes always on the stars, because she knew this was only the beginning. The Varash had millions of soldiers and hundreds of worlds still untouched. But the galaxy had changed forever. Fear had a new name. It was not the Vorash Dominion anymore, it was humanity. And wherever the Terran warship Leviathan went, the stars themselves seemed to dim. Because behind that silence came only ash. The turning point, the galaxy burned quietly. Every major broadcast, every signal relay, every intercepted message carried the same words. The Leviathan is coming. The Vorash Dominion, once proud and cruel, now hid behind broken fleets and trembling allies. Even the lesser empires who once feared the Varash had begun to retreat from their shadow. Because there was something worse now. There was humanity. On the Vorash capital world, the High Chancellor stood before his generals again, his scales pale with fear. He watched holograms of human ships appearing across their borders, like ghosts rising from the dark. "How can one vessel do this?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "It is not one vessel," a scientist whispered. "The Leviathan is just the spear. There are fleets behind it. Hundreds of human ships building momentum from every colony, every world." The Chancellor felt the weight of the words press into his chest like ice. "The humans are uniting," he said softly. For the first time in history, far away, in the void above the ruined world of Vekros, Admiral Rhea Solon stood alone in her command chamber. Below her, the planet burned, its seas boiling from the bombardment. She closed her eyes, remembering the screams that once came from Eden 4. The same sounds, the same smell of ash. Her heart was steel now, but somewhere deep inside, the echo of sorrow still lived. She opened her eyes again, voice low. "Prepare the next jump." Commander Hayes hesitated. "Admiral," he said quietly, The next system isn't military, it's their homeworld. Billions live there. Rhea turned slowly, her face unreadable. The council gave the order, she replied. They will never stop if we stop now. Hayes looked at her with heavy eyes. Then what are we becoming? He asked. Rhea didn't answer. She looked out the window where the light of burning cities glowed. Something they should have feared from the beginning, she said. Inside the alien capital, the Vorash Council gathered one final time. They knew what was coming. They had tried to send peace transmissions, but every message died before reaching human space. The humans were not listening anymore, they were marching, and nothing could stand in their way. Desperation filled the room. Activate the Omega defense, the Chancellor ordered. His generals froze. That weapon will burn half the system, one said. Then let it burn, the Chancellor growled. If we die, humanity dies with us at the same time. On the bridge of the Leviathan, alarms blared. Admiral, multiple energy spikes detected from the Vorash homeworld, the sensor officer reported. They're charging something massive. Rhea's eyes narrowed. Bring up planetary feed, she ordered on the screen. The alien world shimmered with strange energy. Storms formed. Lightning crackled across continents. The Vorash were not surrendering. They were preparing to destroy themselves and everything around them. Evacuate the orbit. Now, Rhea commanded. But it was too late. A blinding white pulse erupted from the planet's core. It spread outward like a sun being born, tearing through the void. Every ship, every satellite, every life caught in its range vanished. The Leviathan's shields flared, engines roaring for a moment. It looked like even humanity's greatest warship would fall, but deep inside its hull, the ship's ancient reactor screamed and fought back. Energy fields layered like armor, holding just long enough. The blast faded, leaving silence. The Vorash homeworld was gone. Reduced to fragments and dust, the Empire had ended itself. Rhea stood motionless as reports came in. All Vorash signatures lost, all systems offline. The galaxy's oldest empire had burned itself to death rather than face human victory. Commander Hayes approached her slowly. It's over, he said. Rhea shook her head, her voice distant. No, she whispered. Wars like this never end. They just change shape. Weeks later, across the stars, new messages began to appear. From alien worlds once enslaved by the Vorash, they hailed the Terrans as saviors, protectors, liberators, but Rhea knew better. She knew what they had done, what they had become. The galaxy might call them heroes, but she could still hear the screams of every burning city echoing in her dreams. In her final report to the Terran Council, she wrote only one line. We showed no mercy, she wrote, but in doing so, we may have lost what made us human. The message was sealed, transmitted and archived. And as the Leviathan drifted silently among the stars, its lights dimming, the galaxy remained quiet once more, not in peace but in fear, because every world knew that if humanity ever rose again, there would be no mercy, only ash. Legacy of Ash, the war was over, but the silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. Across the galaxy, the stars burned quietly, and the ashes of 1,000 worlds drifted in endless night. The Vorash Dominion was gone, erased from history. Their homeworld shattered into dust, but the echo of their destruction remained. A whisper that traveled through the void. A whisper that spoke one name, humanity. On the bridge of the Leviathan, Admiral Rhea Solon sat alone. The lights were dim, the ship running in low power, drifting in the cold. Her hands rested on the command rail, fingers tracing the scars on the metal. She could still feel the vibrations from the Omega blast that had almost ended them. Half her crew was gone, systems failing, but the ship still lived. It always lived like humanity itself, too stubborn to die. Admiral, Commander Hayes said softly. Stepping onto the bridge, his uniform was torn, his eyes tired. We received a signal from the Terran Council. Rhea didn't look up. What do they want? She asked. They want you to return home, Hayes said quietly. Rhea gave a faint smile, one without joy. Home, she repeated. If it still exists, far beyond the Terran borders. Other species watched, some in silence, some in awe, some in terror. The destruction of the Vorash Dominion had changed everything. The galaxy that once laughed at humans now spoke their name with reverence and fear. Children of distant worlds whispered stories about the Ash Queen, the human admiral who commanded fire itself. Merchants spoke of the black ship that appeared without warning, demanded surrender and vanished into smoke. And among the freed slaves of the Varash, songs began to spread. They called it the Song of the Leviathan, a song not of fear but of liberation. But not everyone saw humanity as saviors. Some worlds called them monsters destroyers, a species that brought balance only through extinction. The council received endless transmissions from alien diplomats, begging humanity not to rise again. Yet within the human colonies, celebration erupted, banners filled the skies, voices shouted in pride. For the first time in generations, humans walked with their heads high, but Rhea couldn't celebrate. She knew the cost of that pride weeks later. As the Leviathan drifted near the ruins of a shattered moon, Rhea recorded her final message. Her voice was calm, almost distant. "This is Admiral Rhea Solon of the Terran Union," she said. "Our enemies have fallen, but so have parts of our soul." She paused, her gaze lost among the silent stars. "If future generations hear this, remember we fought because we had to, but we destroyed because we could." Her words hung in the air, heavy and unending. The galaxy will remember us as monsters or as legends, but both are the same because both are born from fear. She ended the recording, sealed it in the ship's core, and stood outside the viewport. The stars shimmered faintly like ghosts of the dead. The Leviathan's engines flickered once, then twice, then went dark. It would drift for centuries, forgotten by many, feared by all. And in the passing ages, stories would grow. Some would say the ship still roamed the void, appearing when injustice rose again. Others believed it was cursed, a relic that haunted the stars, waiting for humanity's next war. But one truth remained unchanged. Whenever a new empire tried to rise, whenever arrogance filled the stars again, someone would whisper that old phrase, "No mercy given." In time, even the Terran Union faded, leaving only ruins and songs. Yet deep in the endless black, a faint pulse still echoed from a drifting metal titan, a heartbeat of light, a reminder of what humanity once was, what they could become again, and what the galaxy should never forget. The Leviathan slept, wrapped in the quiet of eternity, but its legend burned brighter than any star, because even after everything was gone, one truth remained. Humanity was the fire that never died,